Hello guys, welcome to another video. In this video, which is part of the Build Emacs from Source lesson series, tutorial series, we're going to be talking about the dependencies that you need on your computer system to build Emacs from source. Once again, I want you to think of a robot on Mars that is putting itself together, grasping around for whatever resources are available, and when it finds those resources, it's going to build itself. That robot is Emacs, whether or not it flies, whether or not it's got 4 arms or 3 arms, that all depends on what's available when it reaches around and finds out what's on the computer system. So those are the dependencies, and in this lesson, we're going to look at the dependencies that you need to build Emacs from source. And I'm also going to give you a link where you can look at all the dependencies. Of course, Emacs is a really old program. It's been around for a long time, so there are a lot of outdated dependencies. There's just a lot of dependencies, and you could, in theory, make some pretty cool changes with your configure options and your dependencies, although we have the build that you need and there's not too much of it. So if you wanted to know a little bit more about AutoComp, the auto tools, AutoMake, libtooling, here is a URL at the bottom of the page you can go to. Pretty cool article, talks about those in detail. Again, you don't get to see this when you're using Windows software like Windows.exe or any proprietary software. You don't get to see how it's built, but with open source software, you can go ahead and you can understand a bit more. You can build it, and that's really something that you may want to do. You want to build your own software. It's pretty cool. You get your own software. So here we're talking about installing the build dependencies. And the default package set that comes on your computer system, I'm using Ubuntu 25.04 here, it's already got PNG and it's already got WebP and lots of capabilities, but they may not be specific, the libraries that your Emacs configuration, that your Emacs build needs, which is why we need to install the dependencies, why we want to build them from source. So in terms of installing the dependencies, you just go ahead and you install them on your shell. You go to your shell, you do sudo apt install, you put a Y argument, and that means do not ask me for confirmation, and you go ahead and you install them. These are the dependencies that you need. You don't need much more. This one here is specific to the GCC program that I'm using on this system. This GNIB utils 28, again, is also a specific library. So you will see some specific types of libraries. However, if you're on Ubuntu at 25.04, you can just go ahead with these, and it should work on WSL as well, and many different operating systems. You're going to have some version of these libraries. So when the distro source is on enough, and they usually are, but if it's not located, that's when you want to go do the PPA. You want to change your repositories on your computer system so it can go and find those resources. So that robot is reaching around to build itself. It needs resources. We're going to put those resources in front of it so it can grab them. And that's what we're doing here. So let's just take a look at, there's a link to a web page that has an explanation of all of the dependencies. But in this video, I'm just going to talk about the dependencies that I installed on my system to build Emacs. Now, in the upcoming video, we're going to build Emacs from source in a Docker container. It's going to be pretty exciting. So I hope you stick around for that video. But a minimal set of dependencies Emacs will build, and it will include a lot of the features: image support, SQLite, tree sorter, native comp. And that's what we're going to do here, is build a complete build. So here is a URL where you can look through all the dependencies that Emacs has. You can learn a little bit more about them. You can read about them. Again, in this tutorial, we're just going to be looking at the specific dependencies. And those are for auto tools. We've got the build system, we've got AutoGen. So AutoGen, again, if you install from Git, you clone the repository, AutoGen is going to prepare the configure script and other build files. In that preparation step, it relies on the GNU Auto Tools suite. So the AutoComp, it generates the configure script. AutoGen asks it to do that. And when that script is apart, it probes your system. It's a part of the part that probes your system looking for those libraries, like where is libxml2, for example, and then it decides which features are available. So in 2025, you may need this if you've used Git. AutoMake helps generate the make file, and the templates that configure later turns into real make files. So it's part of the same bootstrapping pipeline as AutoComp. Like AutoComp, it's not typically required unless you have a Git build, and you may not need it with the release tarballs. So auto point, a little more detail. Get text internalization tool. It sets up the translation infrastructure so you can build the localized message catalogs. If you run autogen from a Git checkout, you normally want this installed. So the lib tool, this is the one that provides the macros to smooth over the differences in how the shared libraries are built. Emacs does not always strictly require it, but it often shows up in bootstrapping on some distros. So if it's strongly recommended, if autogen complains, installing libtool is usually the fix. Package configure, since I use the release tarballs and I don't clone the repository, those other programs I don't use, but this package configure, it's the tool that tells configure, it helps it with the paths, how to actually find those resources. So your robot is looking around to build itself. It needs to get to these things, and package config is the program that will make that happen. Build essential, this is the make tools, the GCC, the make, the everything in the basic tool chain. And when you install build essential on Ubuntu 25.04, you're going to get this GCC program. You need to take note of the version that you have, because that's going to be important when we start talking about the native compilation. So in terms of Emacs specific build tools, TextInfo will give you the manuals. Once you use TextInfo, you can do Control-HI. You can get these manuals for Emacs, and you may want that included. The mail utils, now this is a program that when you run configure and you don't have the mail utils installed, then Emacs is going to say, hey, you need to install this. You've got you're using the old mail utils, and those are not secure, and you need to use the updated mail utils, so you should install this. And then you go ahead and you install it, and it gives you a couple of options. I choose option number 3, the host, and then you just put in kind of a dummy email, and that gets you through the configure script. But you don't actually have to do that. I think you can actually just skip it, but I actually just go ahead and do that. Now I use MU4E and MU and MB-Sync, so I don't need mail utils, but configure complains again without it. With MU4, you can use the built-in SMTP mail send it command, which can use TLS or start TLS for security. And if you did that in your configure script, this is how you do it. You set that function to SMTP mail send it. So to set up mail utils, follow the prompt, select option 3, email host, and then add this localhost local domain as the email. You can change it later. You're probably not going to be using the mail utils anyway. Maybe you will, I don't know. Core runtime, general libraries, these make your Emacs build more usable in today's modern workflow environment. So this first one is a compression library. The zlib1gdev adds the compression support that you need. It's used for working with compressed data in various contexts, and it's also used by other libraries Emacs may link against. So it's needed in a 2025 build. And lib in curses, I love the name of this library, ensures solid terminal support. And for remote sessions, TTY behavior, it provides the terminal info capability and interfaces Emacs uses for that. So the libsqlite dev, this is a database program, and it's increasingly relevant if you want packages and features that use databases, then that structure data efficiently. You want to install this library. libgmpdev, a multiple precision arithmetic, high performance big integer library that gives big num support. You can think of more efficient, high precision mathematical operations like cryptography, computer algebra, numerical analysis. I put that in there. libgpm, not libgnp. GPM supports enable the mouse operation in terminal. If you've ever had an installation and you get this virtual terminal, with this in Emacs, if you had a virtual terminal, you'd be able to use the mouse in the virtual terminal. So that's better. Anytime you can use a mouse or not, you choose to use the mouse, even though when you're using Emacs, you don't use the mouse. But anytime you have the option to be able to, then you want that option. So security features, TLS, cryptography, we are looking at the libgnu TLS 28 dev. That is version specific. There is also a libgnu TLS dev. Obviously, you want to have a version. GNU TLS gives Emacs TLS support, which is what you need for HTTPS packages, ELPA-MELPA, secure connections, signature checks. Without this, you get a broken network experience. So you definitely want that in the mix. GUI rendering stack, GTK and related. Typically, we're talking about Wayland in the modern era. Maybe X11 is still around for lots of windowing systems, but we want Wayland. So this lib GTK3dev package is massive. It brings in something like 259 additional libraries. This is a really big package, and this is what gives you the windowing system. With this installed, Emacs defaults to the GTK toolkit as opposed to within it to ensure Emacs builds with GTK. You can select configure with X toolkit GTK, but you don't need to. And again, it pulls in a lot of libraries like Wayland and image libraries, many other types of libraries, systemd, dbus, Python 3. It's, it gives you a lot of libraries, so it's a really good package. It's a heavy package, but that's great. It gives you a lot of the things that you need to get Emacs working, like libxml, libgif. These three actually it doesn't give you. Incidentally, you need those afterward. They're not included. But it does bring in dbus, libcairo, dev, libfontconfig, freetype, libharfbuzz, which is pretty important, libpng, libweb, systemd, libtiff, libjpeg, and libxtfdeb. So we're going to install that. Now, when you install this program, libgtk, these files, 3dev, it's going to automatically default to the X11. And so we're going to want to set with pgtk as a configure option to get us into the Wayland build. It will default to the X11. And again, there are some other toolkits that you may have heard about. These are outdated. These are older toolkits. You don't have to worry about these ones unless you want, for some specific reason, to install, 90s Emacs. You could do that. On Mac operating system, you would have a different windowing system. That's this next step. And if you were using Cygwin or MSys2, you would have the Win32 API. And then these toolkits each of them are mutually exclusive. So XPM enables the XPM support, older X11 era icon format. Some legacy assets still use it. I think Emacs actually complains without it. So we would want to have that installed. And this is the one. Some legacy assets still use this toolkit or this icon set. Essentially something like that. So image support, Emacs can display images, inline buffers, help pages. A lot of the formats are enabled by the corresponding system libraries. A minimal Emacs works with these, but a desktop Emacs usually includes several. Now these are the ones that were not installed by libgtk3dev. It did install already our JPEG, our WebMP, our PNG, and just a host of these libraries already. But these are ones we still have to install. So we need GIF support, we want that. We're going to want our SVG support, of course. So that's useful. We want OpenJPEG, the new OpenJPEG, the 2000 JPEG format. We want that. We want the AVIF, even though we never use them. We'd rather use the JPEG 2000, but we'll go with those. And we want the CMS2 color management profiles. And this matters a lot if you care about coloring and design in your images on your Emacs system. Text rendering and internalization. So this is an open, the OTF font. This is the OTF font library, the libm17 library, and the libxml library. These together will give you multilingual support. Now, if you build Emacs with the GTK3dev system and you configure with the option and the configure option with pgtk, that gives you a Wayland system. And the Wayland system uses harfbuzz for the multilingual aspects of it. Harfbuzz is automatically installed by the libgtk3dev. But if you chose to go with the Windows X11 system, then you would need to have these libraries installed, because it's these two that are going to give you the multilingual system on the X11, which is a little outdated, but it's still, you want to install these. So you throw both of these in the mix, gives you the extra option. And this libm17, it actually pulls in a lot of libraries. It pulls in this libxml2dev, as does the other package, the libjtk3 dev. So we put all those together. This is the one, it's pulled in by this one. It's actually also pulled in by the libjtk3 dev, JTK3 dev. So we don't need to have that in this tutorial, but there it is. Okay, so native compilation and advanced features. libgccjit, this is what gives us the native compilation, and we need this to be in alignment with our GCC toolkit. So this is where we did that GCC version, and we got for Ubuntu 25.04, it installs GCC 14, and so our libgccjit 14 needs to be the same. So we've got some alignment there. Once we have that alignment, we won't have any problems. But if they're out of alignment, and we will have some problems, we may need to replace like one or the other. Now, when you replace them, you might have both on your computer system. This could happen if you upgraded from like a stable version of Linux, and that was your original one, and then you decided to go with cutting edge. So you've got more than one system, more than one GCC toolkit on your computer system. Then you have to set a default, and that is something to keep in mind if you ever run into toolchain alignment problems. So here we go with the libgccjit. This gives you the headers and the development files needed to build Emacs with native compilation, which is much faster. It's closer to the machine than byte compilation. So you obviously want to have that because it'll make your Emacs really fast. So libtree-sitter, this is fast incremental parsing, which modern programming modes can use for better syntax highlighting and structural editing. And now here we've got a couple of extra libraries for Fedora, for RHEL. This is really if you are, for example, a system administrator, then you may have some control access problems like chmod, and they are different, these types of labels, as I understand. I don't use either of these systems, but these are libraries that you would want to support, you would want to include so that Emacs can build itself with them on these systems. And this Selinux, as I understand, again, I don't know about this program, but it's maybe a little bit of something like AppArmor, which I can't stand. AppArmor is this program that locks down a program on your computer system so that nothing on it can talk to anything else, and you have to create a configuration file specific for that program. So you have to read the errors and the AppArmor errors to find out how to let the program kind of work on your system, or you just use it without AppArmor. But it is a little bit like if you're a web developer and you have a CSP you have a CSP in your HTML file, which basically says like this website can only access certain links. Basically, we're locking it down. It's like a bouncer. It says, only you can come in here. And that's a little bit what AppArmor does. The Selinux do that. I did read somewhere that that's what it's like. But it could be also a permissions type of library. So it's important for system admins and who are dealing with sensitive files where correct labeling is critical. So in this tutorial, we learned a little bit about autoconf and configure, but also about those dependencies and some of the dependencies and what they do, and the dependency set that you need for a complete build of Emacs. So in the next tutorial, we will learn about the configure options. Thanks so much for watching, and we're looking forward to seeing you in the next video.